It's always crazy and chaotic when it comes to coaching search. We know that, but it seems like some days are crazier than others. This week has definitely involved some of the craziest days of them all. And today we'll just dive into it because there's a lot of things that are swirling and going around. And this actually came out from Pete Nakos, who of course is of On3, college football national writer, and he's always putting out some little nuggets, little intel from a lot of different coaching searches. And today, he gave an update from his report on Arkansas and their current situation. And here's what he had to say. Quote, sources have stressed to On3 that Arkansas does not have a top 3 or a top target at this point. But that's expected to come into focus entering the final weeks of the 2025 season. The Razorbacks have held a handful of Zooms and in-person interviews with a range of candidates in the last 46 days and counting. The Razorbacks are also working with a candidate pool that is in the mix for other openings, 9 power conference schools actively looking for a head coach. One name that sources have told On3 is not a factor into this search at this point is former Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Las Vegas Raiders coach John Gruden, who, I know, sucks, who's publicly expressed a desire to get back into coaching. It says Arkansas made a run at SMU's Rhett Lashley. Arkansas has also pursued Penn State coach James Franklin, who is a top name in the Virginia Tech search. But the Razorbacks are not limiting their search to Franklin. Sources across the industry have told On3 that Tulane's John Summerall, USF's Alex Golish, Memphis's Ryan Silverfield, North Texas's Eric Morris are names to know. And there's also been interest in former Northwestern coach Pat Fitzgerald and Minnesota's PJ Fleck. Fellas, your thoughts?
So every guy who is potentially in the running to land one of these coaching jobs, we just threw him out there as, Arkansas has at least been connected to him. The main thing I want to know from that is who is his source on this that is stressing that Arkansas hasn't narrowed it down and zeroed in on a candidate or even a top 3. I want to know who told him that, because depending on where it comes from, that might be notable or it might just be BS, because it's a little bit different when you're on the national scene, right? Because he might have some plugs into, the Arkansas side of this thing. I don't know that to be the case necessarily, but a lot of times these guys talk to who? Like agents and other folks in the coaching circles or in the college football industry. And there might be specific reasons why something like that is the message that is suddenly delivered. People are talking about smoke screens and everything else there. If I knew where that came from, I wish you'd have been a little bit more specific about it. Like, sources within the University of Arkansas say, or, sources within the coaching circles. I just wish we knew that, because that would maybe change how I'm reacting to this. Right now, I can't lie to you guys. I'm a little bit confused by what we heard there.
Yeah, so yesterday when we were doing the show and there were all these rumors swirling of, hey, Arkansas's got their guy and they're waiting to announce, and, oh, this deadline's going to hit this week, we felt like it was only going to be a matter of time before the big dogs of the national scene started doing some digging and either found that to be true or found that to be inaccurate. And I felt like it would be about 24 hours before we started hearing from the Thamels, the Marcellos, the Brett McMurphys, the Bruce Feldmans, all those guys. I got to be honest, and I want to be careful with how I word this. Nakos doesn't necessarily count as that for me personally. I'm not saying that Pete Nakos isn't a stud or that he's not, legitimate. I don't know if he's on that level of like a guy, like Marcelo put something out. We take him at his word 1,000%. There's no doubt about it. I'm with you, Curtis, that I would have liked some maybe more clarification of like, we've spoken with guys who, have intel on this situation because they are the agent of somebody, or we spoke with so-and-so in this athletic department and he knows this, or we spoke with Alex Golish and he told us he's not involved. Something like that. A lot of what Nakos has done during this coaching search is seem to just kind of check Twitter, see what's going on. But I would have to imagine that whether it's Nakos, Marcelo, or any of these guys, they probably reached out to all their sources wanting to know, hey, is this smoke real? Has Arkansas really gotten their guy? And so when you say what that specific messaging of Arkansas has not narrowed down their top 3, I think that's a direct response to yesterday when the narrative of the rumor mill was Arkansas has their guy. And so I think the purpose, if there was one, of Nakos' intel was to basically throw the fire on the idea that Arkansas has already named their guy. And now it's up to us to believe, to determine whether we want to believe that or not, whether we want to believe the rumor mill yesterday, whether we want to believe what Biddy had to say about this whole thing, whatever. But I got to be honest, for me personally, like I don't know if that's enough confirmation. If there's a couple other heavy hitters in the national scene that want to confirm that, we'll see. But I don't know if I'm putting a whole lot of stock into that, and I mean that as respectfully as possible.
Well, the one thing that stood out to me was the word stressed. Yeah. Like that was the wording. I think it's always interesting, as now that I'm officially a writer, so I can understand the words that are written. When it says sources have stressed to On3 that Arkansas does not have a top 3 or top target at this point. That tells me that it's not just sources say. Sources stress means we need to make sure you understand this. We need to make sure you know. And this is the thing. There's no other thing going on. This is what it is.
It's like somebody reached out to him.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And so that I get hung up on that third word of that paragraph, like stressed. And maybe this is just the glass half full coming out. But I guess maybe a case of this could be that there's, I hate to use the word smokescreen because it gets thrown around, but maybe there's some people that's like, hey, let's leak out all this different information to different people and just throw everybody into a loop. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit behind the scenes, but maybe they're telling Nakos one thing and Trey Biddy one thing, and the Twitter trolls another thing. Maybe they got access to all those people like Silverstead or whatever that guy's name is. But like all this stuff, because I just thought that using the word stressed is a very like, they were hammering Nakos and saying, hey, like make sure you say this, make sure make sure this is the first thing you say, that we have no top target. Very strange to use that wording to me.
Yeah, it is. I guess one of two things could be the case there, right? It's like, okay, dang, somebody's onto us. Like we're about to be found, that we've got this whole big plan here. We better put something out there and see if we can deflect it a little bit. Or it was just complete BS and people are getting more and more anxious and antsy and demanding answers. And okay, we're about to hire our guy, to where someone just felt the need to be like, yo, this is crazy. We're not to that point yet. I don't know what everybody's talking about. So, I don't know, man. And honestly, another thing about this that, it just has me a little bit confused is seeing this. Like if you're a big fan of the idea of James Franklin, right? This might concern you if you take it at face value, because correct me if I'm wrong, but the vast majority of the James Franklin and Arkansas connection has come from Arkansas folks, has come from us and from Trey and, from different places connected to Arkansas specific people that have been making that connection. And I've been waiting to see more national guys get on board with that. And I know he was mentioning this or whatever, but it was almost very much in passing. Didn't seem like it was that big of a deal kind of thing. And so that makes me wonder a little bit about what's really going on here. I know he threw out like every coach in the AAC and everybody you would expect. The Pat Fitzgerald thing, the PJ Fleck thing, like that just makes me like, was he reading the Discord a little bit? I don't know. Like it's some of those names that come out there. I'm just like, okay, yeah, we've heard some of that too, but what are we doing here? Like, what was the purpose of this? So I just, I left that a little bit more confused than I was already. And boy, I was a hell of a lot more confused yesterday than I had been. So I have no idea where this is headed, boys.
Do we have ourselves a good old fashioned smokescreen off here? Because yesterday when all the rumors were going, we were like, oh, is this a smokescreen? Is the fact that Dabo's name is being thrown around, is that a smokescreen? Is this Gruden? Is this Brendan Walker stuff? Is that a smokescreen? Is this the smokescreen? Is this basically trying to throw us off the scent? That is something we genuinely do have to consider, because that is possible. Like you guys said, if Arkansas has their guy and they're getting ready to do it and they don't want people to know about it, well, that would be a pretty good way to throw people off the scent, is to tell a national guy, yeah, no, there's nothing going on. I do also think it's important to consider that whoever let's say Arkansas's next head coach is James Franklin. Well, then James Franklin has an inner circle of potential sources that might find that out. There's sources in Pennsylvania that might be able to find that out. There's different groups of people who might have that information. If it's Alex Golish, that might be a completely different group of people who might have that information. And so I think that's another thing to consider. If Nakos got the Arkansas doesn't have their top guy from somebody, I wonder if one of those random no-name coaches that he listed off, like a Pat Fitzgerald or whatever. Maybe if someone from that circle is his source, where it's like, oh, no. Arkansas told me, Pat Fitzgerald, that they don't have a top coach. So, yeah, Nakos, you're good to run to that. I'm not saying that's what happened here. I'm just saying that, like, whenever the Arkansas hires their coach, everyone's going to be scrambling to try and get it. Where that source and where that report comes from is going to be directly impacted by who that guy is. If Arkansas were to be hiring John Gruden, that's a completely different source, completely different agent, completely different insiders who might have that intel. And so I do think it's very interesting. And so the real question now just becomes, who is it that Nakos is talking to, and why did they tell him that?
The more I think of it, are we starting to agree that had to have come from someone at the U of A or someone involved on the Arkansas side of things? Because the more I think about what you were saying, John, about how they're just really stressing that this is the case, not what everybody's saying. Well, like, why would an agent say that or somebody else? So yeah, it's getting spicy here, boys.
Well, see, and that's kind of like the point you brought up too, Andrew, of when this gets to this point, because I'm always a believer in timing on things. I remember when it was the Petrino thing, when he became the interim, and suddenly he was doing like a car wash of going on different radio shows. And then there was that article that was put up on 3 and all at the same day about, and then like a big donor that was saying, well, we'd love to have Petrino back. I'm like, what's happening here? Like, what are we doing? This is kind of the same thing that I'm feeling right now, because as we talked about, there was quote marching orders, as we joke about, to kind of be given out of like something that's going on there. Okay. And then you have this coming out. And then you throw in, like, again, the stuff that, of course, Biddy's been talking about and Mike Irwin's been talking about. And we've been talking, but it's all over the place. And so my little conspiracy hat that I like to throw on is like, okay, so what is the timing of this? What could be the benefit of this? What's going on here? Why Nakos? Kind of like what you were talking about. Why him? Why not Brandon Marcello? Why not someone who's here and in the mix? And I have nothing against Nakos, but I also can kind of consider Pete Nakos he's not a connected to Arkansas type of guy. Like, I think that there could be some burning there if, say, one of these donors or whoever is giving this info to Nakos, if they went to Marcello, that would kind of burn a little bit if it ended up not being true from Marcello. Marcello's like, well, I'm never dealing with you again because that's not true and you've burned me. I think that maybe they're just throwing it out to Nakos because it's like, hey, if we burn him, what does it matter? Who cares? He's not a local guy, so it's not like we burn that bridge. It's not Marcello or somebody like that we, have dealings with or anything. Let's throw it to this guy and let it go, and then let the rest of it fall into place. Because as we've always talked about, the floodgate type of deal could be opening up. And as far as I can see so far, I haven't seen any other outlet or national or any otherwise confirm or hop onto the report or anything that Pete Nakos has said about this. So, again, I may be just looking really into the weeds here, but there's just a lot of fascination when I see the timing of everything and the intention of everything and why it all happens at once. There's usually got to be some sort of reason as to why.
Brandon Marcello, if you're listening to the show, and we know sometimes you do, just hop on. Let us know. We'll get you in here now. Let's clear all this up, buddy, because we trust what you have to say, man. And yeah, and I don't want to come across as like shortchanging Nakos, because he has broken multiple of these major coach firings in this cycle. So he's very much like an up and comer who's plugged. But yeah, as it pertains to Arkansas and just like some of the language in that conversation that that article that he put out there, it makes you wonder what's really going on here, because from the sounds of it, and I guess you can read something and interpret it a million different ways, but the way I was reading it as it was portrayed, it was like, okay, Arkansas has had a month and a half here, and they kind of just been screwing around. We've done a few Zoom calls here and there, and we're talking to some other people. It's like we've been putting out feelers, and now we're going to start getting serious about it over here, but we're probably just going to be picking from the scraps of the other schools that we're competing with some of these candidates, because we're certainly not going to get them. And that's just not in line with anything that we've been hearing on our end of things in terms of the type of financial situation that Arkansas is coming up with and improving that, and their motivation to go out there and make a good hire, and all these things that they're trying to pour into the football program. So it seems a little bit contradictory here, even if it is a smokescreen. I don't even know why you would want to put that out there. Maybe nobody knows what's going on, but it just that part of it seemed weird to me too, because I just refuse to believe that for 6 weeks they've just been chilling. There ain't no way.
Not. Yeah, they just can't, man.
Yeah, make no mistake. If what Nakos is reporting is true, that is a really bad sign and a really bad look for Arkansas. And that is bad news for all of us who have high hopes or have real expectations or that think that there's been anything going on. So that's why I think that is such a notable thing for a national guy to be reporting. I got to be honest, though, it feels very similar. I don't remember if Nakos got in on this thing, but you remember the week of the Notre Dame game when Marcelo on Sunday started reporting some stuff, and then there was a very clear effort, likely from the U of A, to push back against that, to kind of put out that fire of, oh, no. Bobby hasn't been working the phones. They're all locked in. They're trying to win this game Saturday. Oh, no, everything's fine over here. This does feel a little similar to that, where we talk about the U of A's motivations and why the U of A would want to put something out. I wonder if people inside that football athletic department are kind of like, hey, this kind of sucks that, we're about to play LSU and nobody's talking about this. And it seems like everybody's all dead set that we're about to hire a coach. Would be kind of nice if people didn't think that Arkansas was going to hire a coach right now so that they could focus on our game.